And we're recording. Hey, everybody, it's time for what?
What is up?
For crunch time. Brian,
I should be more excited is what Brian told me.
That was perfect. You nailed it.
Thank you.
But here's why I'm not excited. If we can get this out of the way right away. You're from the Boston area, up north. I'm from Long Island and Queens. It is 99 degrees right now in Raleigh.
It is hot as balls.
Not a fan. Not a fan.
Well, that's when your air conditioning dies on you. That's when it always dies.
God, if it does, I'm gonna die. So I hope it doesn't. Do you like the heat like this or no? Are you at that age?
I'll take it over the fucking winter, man. I just this is as much winter as I can deal with in the winter in North Carolina, and I will put up with this as long as my air conditioning's working. I am fine with it. I'm kind of cold right now, and the air conditioning's set to 77. I've turned into my mother. I've realized. I
think mine's on 70, and I'm sweating right now. This is like, I remember one time first time I was at your house. It was like a normal day, and you had the heat blasting, and I was like, Jesus Christ! Like,
you're just sweating about the Knicks.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm flying to New York literally in 3 hours.
Awesome.
To go watch the game tomorrow with some friends. I can't
right in time for the apocalypse.
Yes, basically. Everett, thanks for joining us this week. We have a great guest. Very excited to talk to him. Obviously, you and him, you said you go way back. So
yeah, I mean, when I first started seeing Lauren, I'd go to these conferences and I'd introduce her to these various people, and I'd be like, "We go way back." And she's like, "How far back?" I'm like, "Way back." And TJ's in the way back category. So
let's bring him in. TJ Fixman, everybody.
Hello. Oh, so much applause. I love it.
I'll be with a whole crowd here.
No expense was spared.
Yeah, Cliff, I was thinking about it actually last night. Did we meet at Blair and Jess's wedding? Is that how far back when we actually met IRL? I know we were in each other's orbits for a while back in the day.
I think we ran into each other at a couple industry events, but the official hangout was at their wedding in was it Lafayette, Louisiana? I believe.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And
way back.
Yeah, leaving that wedding, it was in the middle of this random little town, and I had no idea how I was going to get back from the wedding reception to the hotel. I didn't have a rental car, and there was no cabs in the area. I tried calling for cab. Thankfully, somebody gave us a lift back to the hotel. But one thing about me is I always have an exit plan wherever I go, and I did not have an exit plan that night. That was very very unsettling. But it was a lovely wedding, and they're doing great. Have they had a second kid yet? I don't know.
No. I think they got their hands full with the one, but they're living it up in Amsterdam right now. So they're having.
I didn't know they moved to Amsterdam.
Playing Jess? Oh yeah. Yeah,
got out of the States when the getting is good.
Yeah, They keep trying to make a case for all of us, the rest of the friend group, to move out there, and they're whittling us down, man. It's a great place, but so far LA is the place for me.
Yep. Well, it's kind of related to your career.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you. You're from Jersey. I saw, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I've been out in LA so long now that I don't know really where I should say that I'm from, because I've been out here longer than any place else. But I was born and raised in New Jersey, and then I moved to South Florida for a long time. Lived in Coral Springs, Parkland area, then up to Orlando, then out here. So my friend Dave tells me that I'm from the worst two states ever.
Pretty much.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. But I think I've been out in California since end of 2004. So I feel like this is probably. Despite the accent that comes in and out, I feel like LA is probably where I should say I'm from.
Now, we mentioned the hellhole that we have here in Raleigh. What's the temperature in LA right now?
It's not that bad. It's okay, never mind. It is that bad. It's 87.
It's a nice 87.
Yeah. I mean, it's a brisk 87. I mean, I live in the Valley, and out here, like starting in June is when it really starts to heat up. So people will tell you about Valley summers, and they're not kidding, because it'll get up to 110, 111. Sometimes, so that's when I keep my happy ass inside, and which is easy because I'm a writer, so I'm just in my cave like a golem most of the time anyway. But today, especially, I will be staying indoors.
Yeah, it's brutal here. You mentioned you're right. Let's dive into the fun writing stuff you've done. One of my favorite series, Ratchet and Clank. You are a big part of that series, sir. right?
I like to think so. I'm surely not the first writer on there or the last, but I wrote, I feel like 7 or 8 games. That's where I got my professional writing start. If you don't count the the freelance articles I wrote in college, and I think I wrote a couple of greeting cards. I think were some of the first stuff I ever sold. But
Hold on,
first,
wait.
Yeah.
What? We'll take greeting cards. What are some like? Give us 1 or 2 greeting cards. Was it like the happy, thoughtful ones, or was it like hey, you're a fucking asshole, happy birthday?
I think they were the latter. I think it was the latter. I think like when I was in college, I was trying to get a writing career started, and I had bought this book called like The Writer's Market, which a lot of freelance writers will know is like this big thick place where to sell your stuff for pennies on the word. And I think I would just try to sell freelance articles and greeting cards and that kind of thing. But it's funny that I ended up as a game writer because that was my first like big sort of foray into professional writing. Because I still remember being 7 years old, or maybe even 6 years old, when I played like the original Nintendo, and I wrote a story for Super Mario Brothers and mailed it to the address on the back of my Nintendo Power magazine. Just because I thought they were all in one building, and they were all just like waiting for stories to be submitted. And I never did hear back, but it's just funny that that's where I ended up having the job. Like how many people can say that was the very first job they ever wanted.
And then Nintendo sued you, unfortunately.
Nintendo sued me, exactly. I got a cease and desist letter.
It's so funny when you're a kid. You think like that's how it works. It's like I obviously similar age, loved Nintendo. Had my own design for what Zelda 3 could be like. Here's my design of the overworld and all that. And it goes all the way back to like before that with Transformers. Like my brother and I were like, we had all these ideas for different Transformers, and we tried to send them in, and no, we just got the rejection letter. Obviously, they couldn't take ideas from outside kids like in North Andover, Massachusetts, right? They have their own ideas. You
didn't know that there was no internet to tell you not to do that. It was just like you send it in and you try, right?
Exactly. I mean, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Let me tell you, when I was in college, I still remember like you would query when I was saying that I was trying to get like freelance articles published. You would send a query letter. It was through snail mail, and they would send you back a rejection letter. And I had the wall of my apartment wallpapered with rejection letters, and that was how I got myself to keep going.
But that's motivation, right? Like, you get shot down and you're like, what, I'm going to show you guys next time. And that can actually be powerful,
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can tell you a quick story about that if you like.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I was, this was great because, my senior year of college, they introduced a freelance writing class, and I was not a writing major at the time. I didn't think that there was like a future for it. So, but I wanted to take the class, and the teacher was just an asshole, and he never liked anything that I wrote because I was writing like the Goonies and like Pulp Adventures and that kind of thing, and he was writing his Jack Kerouac sort of like American novel kind of thing, and the only way to get an A was to get something published. That was the only way he would give anybody an A. And he told me that he was going to fail me because he didn't like my writing, didn't think I took the application.
But like published where?
Anywhere. That was the thing. Like you could just be published by a magazine, a novel, a publishing company, anything. That was the only way you can get the A was to get published. And I'd been in 2 car accidents that semester, so I was like banged up, and I had the neck brace on, the whole thing. So I missed a couple classes, but I was still taking it very seriously, trying my best. But this guy just didn't like me, and him telling me that he was going to fail me bummed me out so much that, just going back to what you're saying about letting it sort of push you, I sat down, I came up with a couple ideas. I think the idea was how servers, because I was a server at a betting at the time, and I used all these different tricks to get people to tip me more, how servers were tricking their patrons into tipping them more. And I sold the article, and I got the letter of acceptance the day before the semester ended, and I tacked it to his door and wrote thanks for the A. And then
nice.
he was forced to give me the A. He never spoke to me again.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, well, fuck him.
Fuck him. Yeah.
You mentioned the snail mail thing. I've been doing stand-up so long. I used to send VHS copies to bookers around the country, like in a cardboard, like one of those manila envelopes. We had to send VHS, and finally it was DVDs. But yeah, it was big blocky.
Different time.
Back when I was hiring at Epic, we would get the VHS tapes of like somebody's art reel, like just they wanted to get a job at Epic before the internet, before CDs and DVDs, and I could judge 99.9% of the time based on the font that they chose on the VHS tape. If
Papyrus.
Oh, dude, seriously, we got Comic Sans, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be. Hey guys, come check this out. It's gonna look like that cartoon Veggie Tales.
This guy's whimsy. This guy's so whimsy.
99.9% of the time it did. It's like the font. It's everything. It goes back to that SNL skit with Ryan Gosling. It's just,
so good. But yeah,
they made a follow up too. But yeah,
it was. That's the thing. Like now that I'm like, I'm in my 40s now. I'm looking at like the younger generation with nothing but just jealousy, because all the stuff that I wanted as a kid, like access to filmmakers and Hollywood, it's all just right there at their fingertips. Like Blender is open source and you can use it to learn how to animate, and Unreal is free to use. And back when I was a kid, like I wanted to get into animation, we had Mario Paint. That was it. I had Mario Paint and a VCR. So I'm so jealous of the young generation that's coming up, because they just have all open source everything to like get their creative careers, off and running, and they don't have to deal with VHS tapes like we did.
Well, of course, now everybody's talking about things like back rooms and whatnot, and people are acting like it's a new thing for somebody to be a guerrilla filmmaker, and like there's been plenty of examples of that over the years, going back to Paranormal Activity and Blair Witch and things like that. They're like, oh my god, he was only 20 when you directed it, and I'm like, sure, that's what you should be doing when you're 20. Call me next time you have like a 80-year-old director.
Well, I think that's the thing. That everybody is waiting for, even now, everyone's waiting for like Hollywood to open a door for you. And I don't think they realize that that's not even a door that you need to break in. Like you could just like everyone has a this is not a big crazy take to give, but like everyone's got a video camera on their phones. Everyone's got the access to cheap, if not free, software that they can use to get their careers off and running. I think it just like there were more closed doors back when we were kids, and now it's just a question of who is actually just going to do the thing. Like you want to be an animator, you want to make a game, you want to make a film, just go and do it. Like you don't have to wait for somebody to say, here you go. And in fact, it's probably best if you don't, because what I found as a professional writer is that is that you can't just take the money and do whatever you want. Like it doesn't mean I'm not allowed just to like write anything and just make it so. With that, when you're taking somebody else's money, you're taking you have to take their ideas as well. And not everybody wants to do that. Some people just want to like make their own thing.
Yeah.
I found that I don't work well in a vacuum. I like having somebody that I can bounce things off of. If I completely work in a vacuum, it's not necessarily the best thing. I like, here's a character and the person's like, hey, how about if you tune it this way? And I'm like, oh, I like that. Like somebody that you can work back and forth with, like, and then there's people that just like shit all over everything you come up with. And I'm not not a fan of that. I've had my share of that.
I bet you have. And that's why like having a filter is good, right? Like knowing when to say no, like that's a good idea, but it's not right for this, is I think the big difference between an aspiring and a professional is like having a filter of like not being like a lot of times I do write as a golem in my cave, but knowing when it's time to like send it to a friend or a peer or my manager and say, hey, like give us a read and tell me if I'm absolutely insane for this idea. Like I think that has been super key, and knowing like when to take your ideas and when to be like, all right, but am I going to the weird phrase I use sometimes is, am I going to Home Depot for a milkshake? Like sometimes an idea can be good. It's just not what you went to this particular thing for. Like there's nothing wrong with milkshakes, but you probably wouldn't go to Home Depot for one. Mm-hmm. So like knowing when an idea is good but not right for the project, that's been like everything.
Do you wear the same?
I don't know if I've gotten there yet, but
do you wear the same outfit as Gollum when it's this hot out in your room? Just a
loincloth. Just
standing on top of your desk.
Well, but I am definitely the guy who will just like write in like like ripped sleeveless T-shirts like from college and sweatpants, and like I remember like my parents they came over for a weekend once, and they saw what I was wearing to work, and they were just like, what are you doing? Like just dress for success.
What are you? You're at your goddamn computer. What are you supposed to be wearing?
Yeah.
I know. But I think they think that even like something like this, like they'd be like, why aren't you wearing a collared shirt and a tie? I'm like, because Cliff would mock me if I showed up on here in a tie.
We expect a powdered suit like we're going to 80s prom in here. There is a dress code for crunch time.
We should do that, yeah.
And there's a ruffled tuxedo vest, yeah.
Do you remember any of the Mario story you wrote for Nintendo back then? Like any plot points of it?
I remember no, but I remember making it because I drew the because I was an overachiever. I plotted out the level design as well to support the story.
Nice.
It was, again, it's the kind of thing where like it would have been nice to receive like a little pat on the head from them. That probably would have meant the world to me. But I understand why they were probably like, "What is this?" It's.
But I mean, what was the crux of the narrative? Like, was it the princess is kidnapped again?
Pretty much. Like it was like Bowser. I do actually, now that you tell me this, I do remember. I think I had Bowser's family before they had released more about Bowser's family.
Like Mario 3. Nice, interesting.
Yeah. So I think I did like a Bowser's son or a Bowser's dad or something like that kind of thing.
Wow.
But I did. It's funny. Like I read. My parents again. They collected all this stuff that they brought over from our childhood when they moved to California to retire. And they gave me a chunk of it. They're like, "Get this out of our house."
Yeah.
Oh, but you found it. Like you have it, huh?
No, well, not that story.
Okay.
But I found the first story that I remember writing, and it's funny because it is literally a story about a kid who is also a werewolf who travels back in time and kicks people with a metal shoe. And so I was clearly watching a lot of Teen Wolf and Back to the Future and just ripped them off.
Yeah, but where did the metal shoe come from?
That was my big hook, is that he had a metal shoe that he would kick people on the head with.
Was that like hover boots? It's like hover boots or something.
Maybe, yeah. I have no idea. But I just remember like reading the line like his shoe turned to metal and he kicked him in the face. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Did Mega Man ever have a metal shoe? I feel like Mega Man
was metal.
Was all metal. So maybe that crept in there. Who knows?
But like a kicking weapon, like a kicking like type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and it didn't start metal. It was like I think what I was trying to get at was like an Iron Man situation where it just became metal. But again, it's just funny that like my first thing was I think what a lot of creators do, which is they have no voice of their own, so they just sort of rip off or try to imitate what's around them until they realize, oh, this is actually my voice. Like I've tried so hard in my career. I remember when I was first starting out, I was trying to I was reading all the Bourne Identity scripts because I was fascinated by the Bourne movies. I thought they were so propulsive and cool, and I was frustrated with myself because I couldn't write like they did. And I'm blanking on his name now. But it took me a little while to realize that that's a good thing. Right? There's like Brian, like you've got a style of comedy that is very distinctly yours, and if someone tried to do that, they would fail. Like Cliff, if someone tried to make a game with your sensibilities, it would feel like they're just imitating you. They would fail. It's the same with me, but that doesn't mean that we're doing the wrong thing. It just means that there's something that's distinctly ours. That's just we just lean one way.
It being a copy of a copy. My one of my first games was on the Commodore 64 construction kit, and it was called Thunderburner. So it was like one part Thunderblade, one part Afterburner. Two Sega games I loved at the same time. And I ripped off the big boss from Smash TV, Mr. Mutoid Man, which I cobbled together on Commodore 64's environmental sprites. And I learned from Mega Man 2 to make your bosses out of the background. That way your bosses seem so much bigger. And I mean, everything is a remix, but, it's just a matter of how you put your own twist on it,
Absolutely. Look, everything starts as something that's influenced by something else, right? There's nobody who doesn't have those influences swirling around their heads. But the special alchemy that you put on it is yours, and I think it's instinctive. Like people have asked me on a lot of podcasts and a lot of interviews, like where to get your ideas, and I feel like my response is never satisfying because I don't have like this A plus B plus C equals an idea. I just have I don't know. I thought about this when I woke up one day, and it stuck with me all day. So I just sat down and wrote it. That's it.
Same as a bit I want to try on stage. I just thought of this. Might be funny. I don't know where it came from. It just comes.
That's it. That is so unsatisfying to tell somebody though, because they're just like, oh, all right, but you want to be like, oh, what I do is I walk off into the desert and but like really I just I don't know, with Carry On, I was literally just at an airport in Vancouver, and I was like, God, these people are so mean to the TSA. That's literally what.
Wouldn't it be funny if? Yeah.
It would be interesting if, and that's how it came about. It's there, literally.
But I mean, that's the world, and well, it's one part the things you consume in regards to pop culture, but it's also real life experience that kind of like come together. And that's one thing, you know, I've tried stand up like 20 times and open mic, largely failed. You know, I've had a couple glimmers of like ideas here and there, but once you start seeing the world through a kind of a stand-up comedy lens, then you say, oh, okay, that could be a bit. Okay, that could be good. This experience. Okay, I'm going to make note of that. And it's the same thing, you know, to some extent with game mechanics. It's like, you know, watching a sport and seeing some craziness happen in a sport. Like, could that be a game mechanic? And then it comes down to narrative and seeing, you know, consuming everything narrative. Like I just finished the book, The Troop, which was basically Lord of the Flies meets The Thing. And there was some interesting ideas in that, and you know they're allegedly going to adapt it and blah 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 because your average kid doesn't remember The Thing, probably hasn't watched the new adaptation of Lord of the Flies, much less read it. And that's also my 15-year rule is like, you know, 10 to 15 years, you can take an idea, put a fresh spin on it, and your average kid doesn't remember what the fuck it was in the first place.
Yeah. And by the way, like going back to what you were saying about sort of you trying to stand up comedy, I do believe like a creative muscle can be built, can be exercised, but you have to have been born with it to begin with in order to do that. Like there are just some people who I think might try, and I'm not saying you or Brian or maybe like try their hand at comedy, but if they just don't have that frame of reference or that angle, they're just not going to do it. But if they're kind of funny, they can build on it. They can fan that flame. They can learn about like the rule of threes and stacking and payoffs and like you know runners, that kind of thing. Like the nuts and bolts of a certain discipline, and it's the same for writing. It's the same for acting. Like I don't think you could just like come from the idea of wanting to be an actor and be a good actor. I think you have to have that ability and that impulse to be in front of people. I do not. I do not like being on stage. I do not like. God bless them, but I think like they have to be born with that muscle in order to develop it later.
Well, I mean, the niece loves, you know, pop music. You know, she loves like Billie Eilish and Tate McRae and Taylor Swift. And she's like, you know, I want to be like a big deal. I want to be like famous. And I'm like, I keep pointing her to like YouTube videos of Taylor Swift at like 7 years old, singing and writing songs and playing guitars. It's like, you know, you should have started earlier, sweetie.
You know what? So I'm of two minds on this one because on one hand, you know, Alan Rickman became Hans Gruber at 40. That was the very first movie that he was ever in, right? On the other hand, I do think, to your point, like you have to really want something so much that it's all you do all day, every day. Like even if I wasn't a paid writer, I would write all day, every day. I think a lot of writers I meet, they just like talking about writing because it's fun, and they're like, oh, this is better than you know going into a factory or banging rocks together or whatever. But if you don't want to actually like sit down and learn how to craft a joke and like study, you know, like Brian, I don't know, like who the greats you've studied out, like Eddie Murphy and Delirious, whatever. Like if you have to have that like tinkerer's spirit to really want to really have a chance at doing something, because if you're just like, oh, I want to be the next big thing, well, you just want to sort of skip all the grind work, you know, for years and years and years until you become like Justin Bieber was the same way, right? Doing his like, you know, drum videos on YouTube at 4 years old, and you know, he always wanted to do this.
Then he had Usher, who found him, which is nice. And gotta get some, you know.
But again, the whole flip side is that it's never too late.
Yeah,
and that's
I would say it's never too late. It's just like who will grind and get it done. You know, like if you want to make a video game, you got learn Unreal, come up with an idea, circle up with a bunch of people, make a video game. Otherwise, you know, you're not making games. If someone tells me they want to be a writer, I'll talk to them a couple times about it, but if I find out, like I had a friend who wanted to be a novelist, but after 6 months of talking to him about books he should get to learn structure and programs that he can get, like Scrivener, to get his idea, he just wasn't doing it. And I was like, oh, you like talking about this, but you don't actually like doing this.
He's like, TJ, that sounds like a lot of work, man.
And that was a version of what he said to me. It's like, I just want to have it done. I'm like, listen, every writer likes rewriting more than writing. The blank page sucks. But I get through it because I've been on the other side of it, across the finish line enough times to be like, oh, okay, like I can get here and I can maybe sell this, and I can maybe, and even if I don't sell it, I'll feel like I'll come out on the other side of it a better writer. That's how I know that I'm doing the right thing for a living. Plus, I suck at math. I don't know how to tie a tie without a YouTube video. This is really all I got, guys. This is like
you write. But I mean, you write one page a day. You know, there you go. Right.
I think that's it. If you write one page a day, you can, you're making progress. Obviously, like when you're doing it for a living, you increase it. But like, I think it's the ones who make no progress at all and just want to talk about it. You know, you got a hobby. God bless you, but you're not gonna be working.
There's a lot of people in stand up who like never get better because all they do is their same hacky couple minutes at open mics every single night. But that's not getting better if you're around the same. Like I was very privileged and lucky to grow up in New York and saw the best comics on earth every single night. If I wanted to go see Geraldo or Patrice O'Neill or David Tell, they were there every night, so I could go see them. People down here sometimes don't go to the main club and watch the pros that come to town. It's like, go watch it. You'll learn more watching this pro than doing your 5 minutes. Like you got to consume it in a different way. And I always tell people that, and a lot of people don't agree or don't take the advice. I'm like, all right, I mean, you're not getting better.
That's insane to me that they were not taking that advice. That's the best advice that you can get, just to go. Like I think every creative person, no matter what you're doing, you need to have a healthy amount of imposter syndrome. Mine ebbs and flows, but it's always present. Because the minute that you just think you know everything, you're dead. I default to my stuff being bad. I default to like, this needs work. And by the end of it, I'll like it. But by the time I start the next thing, I'm like, God, I hated that thing that I wrote. Like, what was I thinking about? And that keeps me trying to get better. I don't know, if I'll ever be able to enjoy something that I've written the way that somebody who's just like seeing it for the first time will be. But if that's the price I pay for getting to make stuff up for a living and to live in a house that my wife and I paid for with our imaginations, which is what I tell her all the time, like, I'm happy with it.
Yeah, you mentioned before, like just because you're doing something different doesn't mean it's wrong from another writer or whatever it is. Like there are times where I remember like at Family Guy and South Park at its peak and things like that. I love David Wayne stuff, like really silly stuff. When I see things like that, I'm just like, how do they? I would never think of that in a million years. That is one of the funniest things I've seen. I love seeing things like that, but it doesn't mean you can't think of something as funny or whatever. But it's just like they just have a different way their brain works or mind works, and they think of humor differently, but you like that stuff too. So it's not wrong. It's just different. But I love seeing things. Yeah.
And listen, I found that there's just things that I just will never be able to do. Like I'm a very late adopter to this. You guys will mock me, but I just watched an episode of Deadwood for the first time this week. No excuses for it. Never seen this. Okay, good. I feel better. But like, I'm watching this and it is brilliant. And I'm like, there is no fucking way in a million years would I be able to write an episode of this show. No way. And I feel that way every time I see a rom-com too, but that's okay. It's just that'll be for somebody else, and I know what my wheelhouse is and what I can do and what I can't, and I'm fine with it. And it lets me be a fan of those other genres. But I just know that I'll never be the guy that can write your western. I'll never be the guy who can do rom-com or historical military stuff. Just probably not going to be the guy for that. But I like what I do.
Yeah, but they can't write a Lombax adventure. So there you go.
That's right. That's right. So. or a thriller. It's weird that like I'm known for two things: writing like weird Douglas Adams style, sort of animated, cartoony stuff, or thrillers like Carry On.
Yeah. How did you? Go, Cliff.
I was just saying that's the thing about art. It's like it's the old saying: it's not finished, it's abandoned. And like the second, like, you pass somebody off to somebody else, there's always that whole, wait, I could have tweaked and tuned that and changed that. That's not the final version. The person's like, it's okay. Like I had a person send me a copy of their memoir recently. And like, I like the actual physical page. So like, I actually printed it out and I just sit there at like a coffee shop or a pub and just, with my little light and read it. And then a day and a half later, I get the email from her. Like, that wasn't the latest copy. I'm like, I already printed it, sweetie. Like, sorry. I didn't mean sweetie in a derogatory way. I'm just like, sorry. Like, this is it. I doubt it's changing significantly between point A and point B. So, and it was actually an enjoyable read, and I haven't heard back from her. So I'm like, I'm glad I took the time to read your book. But anyway.
Oh, yeah.
She forgot to include her Teen Wolf years in the memoir. So that was
and a metal book.
Oh,
boot.
Yeah, the metal boot that he used to kick somebody in the head. Yeah.
Why not two boots? It's fine. Okay, anyway.
I don't know.
How did you get your start with writing games? Because you kind of was Ratchet and Clank the first one that you did, or
yeah.
Tell how'd that come about? Because that's pretty awesome.
Oh man, it was very bizarre because I was out here, in LA, trying to become a writer, but also had a background in 3D animation and games. So I was like, my safety thing will be game writing, and I ended up as a game tester, first for EA and then for Insomniac. And my time at Insomniac was coming to a close because, just like a lot of QA positions, it was temp. And I remember I was writing the goodbye email. It was the subject heading was "So long and thanks for all the fish." And the goodbye email that you sent to everybody in the team. And I didn't know this, but at the time the writer for Ratchet and Clank they had wasn't working out, and he was moving on. And this guy who was being let go actually said, "Hey, I'm sorry, my stuff didn't work out, but you got a guy in QA whose stuff I've read, and he's actually really good." So you forget that your stuff just goes around town and writers will read other people's stuff, and I guess he had read some of my stuff. So as I was packing up my stuff and leaving, I got an email from Brian Hastings, who's the chief creative officer at Insomniac, saying, "Hey, do you want to come in and interview for a writing position on Monday?" This was Friday, mind you. So I spent all of that weekend unemployed, trying to figure out how I was gonna get back home to New Jersey or Florida. I had no money in my account, didn't even know how I was going to do it. Came back on Monday to interview, found out that I got the job, I think, on like Wednesday, and started the next Monday going from QA to writer. And I wrote games for 7 or 8 years now, until 2013 is when I left.
So that guy was your usher, and you were Justin Bieber in that situation.
Basically, yeah.
All comes full circle. Look at that.
And he ended up like being teaching screenwriting at the New York Television Academy here in Burbank, and I think for 2 or 3 years straight, he would call me in to talk to his kids, and I could never say no because it's just a very cool thing for somebody. I mean, awesome. Everybody in this industry gets fired. Everybody. I've been fired off almost every project I've ever been on. But for him to be like, "Hey, I'm sorry, I didn't work out, but that guy's really good," was game changer for me. And video games gave me something to talk about when I would go to what they call generals out in LA, where you're talking about movie stuff. And everybody in movies is interested in how video games are made and vice versa. So I think that was a great stepping stone into movies.
Now, you said you interviewed on Monday, got the job Wednesday. What was that? That was a really quick process. What did you bring a bunch of samples? Did they just like you as a person? What was that interview process like there?
I think Brian had read my stuff. I wrote a Scrub spec back in the day.
Best show on earth to me. It's my favorite show in the world.
And back then it was at the top of its game. So
did you see the new series?
I did. I really liked it.
It was incredible. It was absolutely. I couldn't believe how good it was. I loved every.
It was a Gen X dream, I think, because there was just a lot of humor that was directed towards Gen Xers and Xennials or whatever. But I think he had read that, so I think already he knew that I could write. It wasn't about convincing that I could write. It was more about is he going to be is he going to integrate with the team well? No problem. But I think that because I had experience with Maya and I had done some I had done some light design work on Resistance 2. I did collision stuff and nav meshing and things that are largely automated today. I think their feeling was that they could drop me into the process and not have to worry about whether or not I could. There's just a lot of people who write movies and TVs who try to write games but don't understand that you can't just write anything, that the engine has to be able to accomplish it and has to fit in with a design. So I was able to do it, and it was I ended up staying probably a little bit longer than I should have, but it was a great boot camp, and I love doing it. I still love the company.
What is the difference from writing TV or a movie to a game? You mentioned it real quick there. Is there a different mindset? Yeah, is there a different mindset right going into it? Do you actively try no, you're going to write something a little differently just because you got to make sure it works in the game, or do you write something first and then tweak it for a game, or what's that like?
I think so. With movies and TV, you spend a lot of time in development before, and that's before anybody else comes on board, right? Maybe a director's attached, maybe an actor's attached, but you iterate and iterate and iterate until the studio is like, okay, this is it. With video games, you got design waiting on you, you got art waiting on you, you have QA, everyone's just staring at you. So you have to be like, here's the general idea, go build this while I build my story. And you're literally just laying down. Cliff's having PTSD as I talk about this because he's remembering this. It's literally laying down the tracks as the
left hand, the right hand, yep.
And then somebody will come up to you and be like, hey, that awesome twist you wrote for this one level? We're cutting that level because we couldn't make zero gravity work.
Yeah, and flamethrower guy had to get cut because he was killing the frame rate, but I know he was integral to the plot in Act 3, so fuck it, right around it.
Yeah, and you're like, well, can I just redo that? They're like, no, we don't have any more animation minutes. I'm so sorry. So
That's
you're
funny.
the way I used to describe it is you are building a raft of twigs and twine and riding it over a waterfall, trying to hold it all together while designers snip the twine.
That's very poetic, actually.
Right?
Is that pretty accurate, Cliff?
Yeah, I need some Xanax right now.
Yeah, but it's also like, look, it's frustrating. It is at times really disheartening because I don't care what studio it is, unless you're working, you're Ken Levine or you're Neil Druckmann, like you have to honor like the tech will be the ultimate decider. But I'm not afraid of any notes that I get now in the film world. You know what I mean? And it doesn't scare me. I mean, I like it. I may disagree with it, but I'll be like, all right, let's figure it out.
You grow that skin after a while. You get that like layer of like, okay, whatever. Like rejection is gonna come every day in this business, especially if you're creative. And then like after a while, you're like, okay, we'll try something else.
But I mean, TJ, you made the point that like like getting the feedback in the game space is completely crushing, and after completely and whereas notes on a movie, you're kind of like, sure, I'll make his attaché case blue, sure, like.
Yeah, listen, it varies, right? Like there are sometimes, like I remember working on one movie where like I can't name the star that was attached, but he had just gotten into like action movie shape and really wanted to show off his body, and he was like, I need more scenes with me shirtless and working out. I was like, all right,
who could it be?
I can't say, but you do get weird stuff that pops out like that, and there's also just stuff like while you're shooting, where with like Carry On, I think I wrote it to start at a auto body shop, but for whatever reason, the auto body shop that they got didn't work out, so they're like, okay, well let's a Christmas tree farm, and that was available. And then we're like, okay, we're going there now. There's lots of it, but I think video games just have like a crazy level. Literally everything needs to be built, designed, from the ground up, and not everything is going to work. And sometimes there's a designer who will like hang on to an idea way longer than he should have, and you're just like writing the scene to support it, like, yep, yeah, all right, dude, like, yeah, sure, we're gonna be like all on top of a rocket as it flies into the sun, sure, and then finally, like, before you hit beta, you're like, yeah, we gotta cut that.
It seems like for me, who doesn't like, it seems like for now, like anything could be made in the game. That's why it's crazy that still happens. I imagine every single day, but it seems the technology's gotten so good that literally any idea you guys have could be put in the game.
You're dealing with other variables. Manpower, budget, the amount of time you have. When's it coming out? What's the marketing campaign? There's a lot of variables, and that's one of my biggest pet peeves in life is when people leave out variables. People are like, how much does it cost to make a game? I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, what kind of game? How big? What kind of graphics? What platform? Like, just shut up. Like, it's the same thing across all things creatively with these commercial endeavors we all do, right?
Yeah. Well, I just saw. Speaking of movie, I remember I just saw. I was reading before that He-Man, and you saw He-Man, Cliff. Did you see the new He-Man yet, TJ?
I did not know. No,
it was great. We'll talk about it in a second. But their budget was $200 million. They only made $53 million. I'm like, that's crazy. That's a failure now. That considered $53 million because it costs so much to make. But I enjoy it.
It costs that much to make, but then there's also like whatever it costs to make, that's how much they usually put to market it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's double. Right.
Yeah.
And they've been marketing like crazy. It's been everywhere. Did you like it, Cliff?
It was exactly what I expected.
Okay, good. Yeah, right.
Well, Lauren's a little bit younger, right? So that's not her generation. Her generation is Pokemon, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And so I'm explaining to her, like, you have to understand, like, the majority of these characters were ridiculous designs, and the names were completely stupid.
That was a very fun part of the movie, how they made it was a very wink, wink. We know these names are stupid. Which
exactly. Really I mean, a big spoiler, TJ. They basically acknowledged that, like, young He-Man Adam, right? Like, that he, his memory of all these, like, this rogues gallery of characters that he interacted with when he lived in Eternia. He was just like, Ram Man, and then
Fisto, things like that.
Yeah, Claw Guy.
I will tell you, when I first left Insomniac, I was a creative consultant for Hasbro for a little while.
Ooh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and they gave me a big binder of all their characters, and they're like, see what if there's anything interesting in there. And I was like, oh, Micronauts, that's cool, and Mask, that's cool, Rom's cool. But they have just a whole bunch of toys, and I think that just in the 80s and 90s, there was just a whole lot of cocaine going around.
Yep.
And the the mythology for all these things was just wild because it was all just designed to sell merch.
Yep.
And I would think that when you look at like video games in the 80s and 90s, like I was working on a Street Fighter for a little while, like that was designed with very 80s 90s sensibilities in mind, and it's still so beloved that you can't change it too much, otherwise people would be like, well, this isn't Street Fighter anymore, this isn't He-Man anymore, whatever. But you have to almost wink a little bit, otherwise it just does not hold up to like today's sort of sensibilities of everything needs to be gritty and grounded and realistic. The 80s was a time, man.
Oh yeah.
So
what'd you do?
Speaking of Street Fighter, though,
what'd you do there?
I was one of a few guys who got to like pass the baton on the world's coolest fighting game, and it's fun, man. We're excited about it. Katao Sakurai was the director on it, and he made this really cool, like really game focused, like mythology accurate version of the movie that feels irreverent and fun, and it's got badass action sequences and probably the best soundtrack I've ever seen in a movie ever. Like if you took, I've always said that the 1990s, because it takes place in 1993, I always said that the 90s was the best era for music ever. And if you open my CD case, which I still have to any page, you'll find something that's in the movie. Awesome. So it's very cool and fun, and it doesn't take itself too seriously, and
So we're talking about the new movie coming out in a few months. You worked on that. Is that what we're talking about?
October, yeah.
Nice.
I was one of a couple of writers that got the jam on it. I can't claim credit for all of it, but
it looks like from the cast, from the trailer, they're going full goofy mode in a good way. Like we're gonna make this so fun, so silly. People are gonna love it. It's campy. It's great. The characters look like the characters we know we're doing. Is that kind of what we can expect?
That's the vibe. Absolutely. Right. It's fun. Yeah. Like, I mean, everyone just goes for it. Everyone has a great time. Jason Momoa as Blanca is just amazing. Yeah. And 50 Cent as Balrog is awesome. It's just fun. You could just, when you watch it, you could just tell everyone's having the best time.
That's great. That's what you want. That's what you want. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's cool. It was a nice break from like, I've been writing a lot of carry-on type stuff for a while, as you can imagine. Once you write carry-on, everyone's like, oh, like thrillers. Let's go for thrillers. Even though like I don't think carry-on was like super dark, it was dark.
The stakes were certainly high.
yeah, exactly. And got to like have Jason Bateman as a badass villain trying to kill people with nerve gas. But with Street Fighter, it's definitely just about like celebrating the 90s and just watching these sort of larger than life characters just give all the Hadoukens and roundhouse kicks that you could want.
Which sounds like the perfect summer popcorn movie in a good way.
Yeah, and I think it's
early fall. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. It's October, but it's like shot.
It is October. Okay, yeah.
We gotta go see
it. It's shot in IMAX. It's like it looks amazing. Like it's the kind of movie that just like go to have fun. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's go and just have a good time with it.
I came up with Eric Andre in stand up. We started around the same time in New York and everything. So and he's in the movie. So how'd he do? I know he's got a smallish part. It looks like, but he's the best. Yeah.
He's great. Admittedly, I was not on set for this one. Like I said, I was sort of like I was a baton passer on this one, but he's great in it. Everyone's great in it.
Very cool.
Everyone just goes for it. They know the kind of movie they're making. And they're in on it. So if you just go in there just to have a good time, you're gonna love it.
Awesome. You mentioned Carry On a bunch of times. Let's talk about that. We watched that on a whim a year or something ago on Netflix. I watch anything with Jason Bateman. He is like my number one. What was that?
My wife loves him.
Yep, me and her. We're gonna split Jason Bateman. Was that like? Was it written with him in mind, or once he comes on, is that like for you as a writer, like holy shit, I got Jason Bateman? Is that like what was that like?
So to be honest with you, when I wrote the first draft of that movie in I want to say 2011 or 2012,
wow.
And at the time I was not thinking about who would be starring in it. I was only thinking that I wanted Traveler to be the guy that you don't suspect to be a kid. Like he was at the time I wrote him. I think he was wearing like a long sort of like peak coat and a goofy like reindeer themed scarf, and he was carrying a bunch of presents with him, kind of thing. And I think by the time we sold it, set it up, and we're really getting going with it, I think just the idea was to keep that same idea, but make it a little bit more contemporary. So to have like, Jason Bateman, who like you would not look at and think is a villain, but he's in a puffer jacket and a baseball hat, and he's just the guy who's sitting over at the bar, eating food, and he just happens to be the worst person on earth. So
but he's an everyman. That's the vibe, right?
Exactly.
He could do everything. Nobody's better at comedy and drama than him. I think he's perfect at both. Like it's very hard to do both of those, and he's like the same guy in each of them. That's why I think it's pulls it off.
He's awesome. Like I think so. Again, I didn't get to meet him until the premiere. I met him for like 7 seconds, but but he would add some stuff that was just so Jason Bateman-y and dry that like I never in a million years could have thought about. There's a line that he ad-libbed where like he shoots Ethan Taron Egerton in the shoulder, and he goes, feels like I got you. You okay? Like. And it's just the most.
That was all him. That's great.
That was all him. That was not just like a Jason Bateman-y thing that like I think because he just like he has this vibe to him where like he can play a million different characters, but he always has this like dry sort of like humor to it that I think is so distinctly him. So when I heard that he was in on it, which I found out by reading the press release.
That's great.
The producers didn't even have time to tell me, but like I was super happy. And then I think after that is when Taron came on. I was like, he's fucking perfect. So it was very interesting seeing that one come together. Real interesting. Because it stayed very close to my original script. So like there was a time where they flew me out to New Orleans to be on set for a couple of days. And I'm walking through basically my imagination because all these things that I wrote 10 years ago, like I wrote this moment, like when I was going to summer camp, Area 51 was an arcade in the canteen at that summer camp. And I must have dumped $20, $30 worth of quarters into it in the first week alone. And I wrote it into the movie and it was just there. And like, it's just sitting there on set, and everyone's walking past me in Northwind Airlines attire because I wrote the airline to be Northwind, not thinking that would survive. You sort of imagine that the legal team would be like, "Oh, it's not available." So it was the most surreal thing to walk through your imagination. Probably very close to what Cliff experienced on Gears, just getting to see something that you thought of like actually made real. But now it's like a drug, and I'm like, when am I going to get that again? When am I going to get to?
Yo, man, gotta remember that north wind coming in.
It was some of that imagination crack, It's just very cool to see, and you don't get, who knows if that's ever going to happen a lot. I mean, I do see some of my stuff in Street Fighter that's cool to see, but to think of an idea 1 year, but completely whole cloth, and then see it another year just like made real is a very surreal thing that even most working writers never get to experience.
Anytime a sinkhole opens up and monsters jump out, Cliff gets a little sparkle in his eye.
I mean,
or a little PTSD.
At the end of the day, like, we do this because we like to eat, but to see that kind of thing and then to hear somebody be a fan of the stuff you worked on, it's just that's what it's really at the end of the day all about.
Yeah, I've seen people, Cliff. I'm sure you've seen this too. Have you gotten yet where you see somebody with a tattoo of your character on their body, and you're like, holy, like somebody came up to me and showed me there's this character Orvis that I wrote for Ratchet, Clank, a Crack in Time, and even there was a quote of his on their ankle. The universe has a wonderful sense of humor. The trick is learning how to take a joke, which is something that I wrote at 2 a.m. because I needed something and I thought it was interesting, and now it's on this person's body forever, and I'm like, wow, like
that's the best. That's the best.
It's a high,
The
it almost makes up for everybody on the internet who shouts at you that you ruined their franchise.
Of course. The humor in Ratchet and Clank is one of my favorite things. We've talked about funny games on the show before, and I love a good funny game, and especially the last couple of Ratchet, the 2016 one. You did that one, right? The 2016. Right?
Oh, was that Rift Apart? I was in
No, the one that was just called Ratchet and Clank. Was that?
Oh yeah. Well, I was so I'd worked on the movie, but I'd left the movie because we had creative differences. But then I came back to write some of the scenes for the game. So the game was like a mix of like other people's scenes and my own.
Yeah, I mean, I find so many parts of that game are so well done and funny. Even like when you get a new weapon and that little guy comes up and explains the weapon to you, and it shows like a little like it's so funny.
Yeah.
Like it's so underrated how great it is. And I was cracking. I think Mr. Zircon's one of the funniest characters. That little psycho robot just blasting people away. But it's such a fun, enjoyable. Now there's been so many Ratchet and Clanks. How do you differentiate, or like how do you think of a different storyline for each one? Because obviously it's at its core, it's this little animal with these big guns, right? Going on an adventure.
Right.
How does that become like, now we're going this way, now we're going that way? Is that hard to do after like 6-7 games or whatever?
Hard to do? No. Is it? But there's always a month or two of like beating your head against the wall, trying to figure out the right direction. Because like I think it starts with like what the DNA of the franchise is, right? Like that it's big weapons,
right?
Big humor. It's a planet hopping adventure. Like the things that people expect. And Captain Quark. Like we know that people just like love these characters, and we can't. Whatever we do, it's got to have Captain Quark and this stuff in it. But I think like with A Crack in Time, it was a lot about the tech. So like that was the designers, that was Brian Allgaier, the creative director, saying, hey, like we want to do a lot with like time manipulation. So I was like, okay, well, like what if there was this thing called the Great Clock, and it was built at the center of the universe, give or take 50 feet, which I thought was funny for some reason at the time, that it wasn't precise. But that coming up with that idea gave the design team something to run with, while giving me a North Star narratively to go with. So then I was like, okay, well, like how do we write an interesting, not just a Back to the Future movie, but like a time travel story. And then you just go back and forth until you have something fun with your creative director and your team. And then the Mr. Zircon stuff just sort of evolves naturally, because someone will come up, like Brian Allgaier, I remember, came up with the idea for Mr. Zircon, and all he said to me was, he's like, listen, Mr. Zircon, it's a weapon we've had before. It's a reskin of a little guy who runs around and shoots guys with you, right? But you come up with a different way into that makes it feel fresh. He's like, what if his name is Mr. Zircon and he just talks in third person? It just made me think of sort of like those Chuck Norris jokes that were big at the time.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, let's just write, 50 of those. I wrote 50 and everyone loved it. And then it came, like we were back in a focus test, like that was really a high scoring part of the game. They're like, we need you to write 200 more.
It's like a blessing and a curse. Okay, that's great. Now can you do a whole lot more?
All right, and that's when it gets really interesting, because there's so much iteration, and you have to come up with like every line you have in the game has to have 10 or 12 versions. Like even just to like when you think about like going through a door, well you have to have a character that's standing right near you, be like, what about going through that door? Have you ever thought about going through that door? You should go through that door. And just like coming up with different ways of saying that don't feel too video gamey, and you don't always succeed. That's where the interesting part of game writing comes from.
And sometimes that 185th idea is the best one you have. You know what I mean? Like that's why you keep going. Sometimes you made 50.
Sometimes,
you just keep going and going. Eventually, you line up.
You had to keep going through the previous ones to get there. So the question I've been waiting to ask you though, TJ, is what's up with Knight Rider?
Dude, I don't know. I wish I knew.
For those of you who don't know, TJ was possibly involved with making a new Knight Rider, which for those of you who are young, those of us who are in our 40s and 50s, Knight Rider was this awesome TV show in the 80s with David Hasselhoff. He had this car that had this little like Cylon like light in the front, and then it could do like turbo boosts and
talk to
get in the back of the car. And it had it was the original AI without being terrible.
Sick theme song.
Sick theme song. I was so excited to get that one, and like I wrote the script. I still love the script, but something happened where like I think they parted ways with the producer, and I think the new producer wanted to start like with a brand new script. But what was funny about working on that show was that I still remember when I was 4 or 5 years old coming out to California for a vacation, and I got to sit in Kit, the Knight Rider car, and I posted it on Twitter when I got the job, saying, hey, 5-year-old TJ just stepped through a time portal and high-fived me, that kind of thing. And David Hasselhoff not only followed me, but very quickly after emailed me to wish me congratulations and signed the email Michael Knight, which I thought was great. and I was like trying to play it cool because we at the time we didn't have a script, which means we didn't know if or how we wanted to involve him. We knew that we wanted him involved, but I think we needed to sort of figure out what the story was first. And the guy and I say this with love because this was just one of those really surreal moments. But he goes on, I want to say it's Entertainment Tonight, and he was at like a convention, or whatever, and they asked him what he thought of the Knight Rider movie. And he pulls up like my tweet on his phone. He goes, "TJ Fixman is writing the Knight Rider movie, and I believe in him." And I'm like,
"Oh shit!"
You're like calling your agent, like, "What the fuck's going on right now?"
It's real now.
One of those really wild sort of moments where you're like, "Hey, the guy that was in the TV series that like I loved, and now I have his attention, and I have to be very careful with
Right.
So I'm really bummed that I don't think it'll be my script ultimately that gets made, but I'm sure they're gonna. It's too big a property and too big an opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, in Masters of the Universe, there's a Dolph Lundgren cameo, which is just
of course
great.
Oh yeah, you got to. You have to honor the OG stuff, right? So like I will always love my script was wild. It was like I remember when I started with it, I was like, "What's the budget here?" They're like, "Don't worry about budget, just write it." I was like,
"Say no more." That's awesome.
So I think I wrote some sequence where Kit hijacks like 200 self-driving cars, and they're all driving with Michael Knight. You know, it was very, very wild. But it was one of those cool things that you get to do. Like, and I've got a couple of those moments where like I was up for Ninja Turtles, didn't get it, but like, God, it was cool. I got to play in that sandbox for a little while. I was up for Transformers, didn't get it, but it was cool to play in that sandbox for a little while.
Yeah.
There's certain things that like you feel like your younger self would be really proud of you for, and that was Knight Rider was definitely number one. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, you had Brian at Transformers, by the way.
No, Ninja Turtles.
I mean, Ninja Turtles.
And Ninja Turtles. I would love any of those, but you know, maybe next time they'll reboot it again and again and again.
Yeah, exactly. 10 to 15 year rule.
Yeah, I remember like I actually like got called into Ghost Corps once to talk about Ghostbusters. And I'm sitting there, I'm talking about what I would do with the Ghostbusters movie, which is surreal enough. And then Ivan Reitman walked into the room and was like, "I've read your stuff. I'm a real big fan." And I was just like, actually, I don't know if I could say what I said because I don't remember it. I think I just sort of like left my body for a little while and came back in after he left. But it was just one of those really weird things when you're talking to somebody who was like responsible for a big part of your childhood.
Is it hard to put your own spin on a well-known property like that?
I would say no for me because I have learned to look for the DNA, right? What are the things people are going to expect? How can I look at them? Like there's a sequel to an old but really awesome movie that I can't name yet, but I'm such a big fan of it. I want to do it justice, right? I had to look at what's the DNA that people will expect from this sequel. So that when we do it, it doesn't look like I'm just trying to sort of like reverse engineer my own thing or retrofit my own thing into it. And then how do I make it slightly, or I say different enough that it feels like I've got something to say? Yep. Because there is a problem with people who do too much fan service as well. Like we've all seen movies that know their sequels, you know? And I think you're like, well, then why did you even bother if you were just looking to like redo what's already been done?
Yeah.
So finding that balance, I guess, is the answer. And I know to do that. Whether I'm successful or not, I don't know.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anything upcoming, TJ, to plug?
Well, Street Fighter is the new hotness, so that one's going to come out in October. So we'll be on the lookout for that. I've got certain projects that are around town, like the Seventh Man is over at Amazon, but that's still in development, and I've got a number of things still in development over at Netflix and other studios. So some stuff will come in, will be announced too. But I would say stick to the Twitters and the threads for the big stuff. But Street Fighter is next. I hope people dig it. It's a wild ride, I'll say that.
What was your favorite toy growing up? Did you have one? I feel like we're almost
So I'll tell you, I had we could not afford Transformers at the time, I don't think. So we got GoBots. Off-brand version. So GoBots, and honestly, I had the Castle of Grayskull from He-Man. I had all the characters, and did you have the goo that came through the?
Yep, I had. Ready? I had the fucking Eternia playset. The three towers and the track. Best toy I ever had in my life. Best toy I've ever had. It was insane.
But did you have the 7-foot GI Joe aircraft carrier?
For some reason, I think we did. I know I've seen it. I remember how big it was.
You think?
I don't. We had.
You would know.
I wasn't spoiled. No, listen. I wasn't spoiled, but we had a lot of shit, and for some reason, I think we had that. Yeah.
I never got that.
Snake Mountain. I still have all my turtle stuff. I still have all my original turtle toys.
I'll tell you, I had until very recently, and I'm very upset about this still. Until very recently, like I said, my parents they retired out to California once like seven-ish years ago. Had the original Legend of Zelda box, like in box, so I had the gold cartridge, the original packaging, and the manual, and they threw it out when they came here. I was devastated. And
Every parent always does that.
That's enough to put them in prison for life. That's insane.
I'm like, how much could it be worth? And I pulled it up online. I'm like, that's how much. They're like, fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, it was GoBots, man. They got a bad rep, but you know.
GoBots, it was like, oh, it's a robot. Now it's a plane. Now it's a robot.
And they were like metal and painted with like lead paint. They were really dodgy toys.
I just remember Leader One and Psykill. Those are the only two names I remember.
Psykill, get it?
You remember more than I do. I was big into like board games and GoBots and stuff until Nintendo took over. And then from there on out, it was all about Nintendo, Super Nintendo. Like you remember how there was like Nintendo versus Sega. You could be one kid but not the other.
Oh yeah.
You know, so like the wars were started on that kind of stuff in the '80s, and I was all about Nintendo. So
we were Nintendo.
I stayed that way for a long time. Yeah, now I'm mostly PlayStation, but
yeah, same.
You know,
that
is until the Ocarina of Time remake comes out, and then I will go back to being from a Nintendo guy.
Cliff, any cliffhangers or final words?
No, man. That's pretty much it. Sweating my butt off here in North Carolina. TJ, the big question is, are you still making pizza with the pizza maker we got you for your wedding?
Ooh.
My guy, we are making Julie Nathanson, Morla Garandonda, and Larissa Gallagher, who are three really established VO actors, are coming by tonight, and them and my wife Kate, we are all making pizzas together. It is a big sort of event. So yes, we are making pizzas with your pizza oven. It is the greatest thing we have in this house, and I really appreciate the wedding gift because it's awesome.
happy to facilitate. So enjoy, dude. It was good chatting, and keep crushing it, man. I'm
gonna put this out there. Boy, when Christmas comes, I would love a pizza maker. Cliff, I would love.
We shall see.
It is an amazing gift because it's like an event when people make it. So yeah, it was a great gift. Thank you for sending it, and this has been fun. So I hope you guys got some fun stuff out of it.
Definitely, awesome. TJ Fixman and at TJ Fixman on Twitter, correct?
Yes, everywhere is at TJ Fixman.
Everywhere. Follow us, everybody, at Crunch Time with Brian and Cliff. And make sure you keep enjoying the show, keep sharing it, and liking it. We hope you do, and we'll talk to you guys next week. All right.
Hasta pasta.